Welcome back to the deep dive. So if you're listening, you're probably someone who's already, reading the articles and trying to stay ahead of the curve on performance, on energy.
Right.
But maybe you're still hitting that wall, fighting the mid-afternoon slump, or you just can't shut your brain off at night.
And that's because the prevailing advice, it so often misses the most crucial element.
As well.
Timing. And today we're diving deep into the neurobiological levers that actually control your energy, your mood, and your sleep. Specifically, it's about cortisol and light.
And how they set our entire internal clock.
Exactly.
So our mission here is to understand why that common advice, avoid all stress, might be fundamentally wrong.
Completely wrong.
And why mastering the timing of things, especially in that first and last hour of the day, is maybe the single most effective health protocol there is.
And that brings us to our really counterintuitive starting point, cortisol. For decades, it's been the villain, the stress hormone we have to get rid of.
Right. Always lower your cortisol.
But that frame it fundamentally misunderstands its healthy purpose. Cortisol is essential. Its whole job is to deploy energy. It mobilizes glucose. It preps your system.
So your brain and body are ready to go. To think, to react, to move.
Precisely. We don't want it stuck on high, of course, but we absolutely need a massive, healthy, and perfectly timed spike in the morning.
Okay, so let's unpack that. If we look at a healthy 24-hour cortisol curve, it's not a flat line at all.
Not at all. It's lowest during deep sleep, maybe 4 or 5 hours into the night. But then about 2/3 of the way through your sleep, it starts to rise.
And that rising curve, that's actually what wakes us up.
That's your body's natural alarm clock. You wake up because your cortisol hits a certain threshold. It's called the cortisol awakening response, or ARR.
A completely healthy internal stressor.
A healthy and necessary one. And what surprises people is that morning spike. It's often way higher than the stress spike you'd get from, say, a tough meeting in the afternoon.
Wow. So we can actually control this. We can amplify this natural signal.
This is where timing becomes everything. Your brain's master clock has this unique, privileged neural pathway that is really only active in the first 60 to 90 minutes after you wake up.
Okay, a privileged pathway. So it's different from the normal stress response.
Completely different. It's separate from the HPA axis, which is that standard long-term stress highway we all hear about. This is an immediate kickstart.
And we have a limited window to use it.
A very limited window. And the single most powerful lever is light. Getting bright light in your eyes. And I mean bright, sunlight's ideal, or 10,000 lux from an artificial source.
And that does what?
It can boost that morning cortisol spike by up to 50%.
50%, that's huge.
It's a massive signal to your entire system that the day has begun. It sets the rhythm for everything else.
So besides light, what else should be in a morning toolkit? I mean, everyone reaches for coffee.
Yeah, but the data shows there are cleaner boosts. Simple hydration, for one. It's likely linked to restoring electrolytes, and it gives you an immediate cortisol burst.
And movement, I assume.
Even light movement. A minute of jumping jacks, skipping rope. It just signals go time to the body and amplifies that CRR.
What's really interesting is what doesn't work. You mentioned caffeine. For chronic users, it doesn't really move the needle on cortisol.
Right. Your body adapts.
And cold plunges, people think of that as a stressor, but it actually drives cortisol down, right?
It does. It boosts adrenaline, dopamine, norepinephrine, great for focus, but it actually lowers cortisol. So if you want that specific clock-setting spike, you need light and timing, not a chemical or a shock.
And that timing is critical because of what you call the negative feedback loop.
Exactly. You spike cortisol hard in that first hour, and then the body's natural feedback system kicks in a few hours later and forces cortisol levels to drop.
So guarantees you'll wind down later in the day.
It ensures you tail off naturally. But the danger is the flat curve. You wake up, you stay in a dim room, you get a weak KRR.
And then what happens?
Then your whole stress system is primed for big, lasting cortisol spikes later in the day from even minor things. That's the root of afternoon anxiety, and it's why you can't sleep later. Your system never got the signal to power down.
That morning spike really is the first domino.
It is. We even see it with exercise. An intense evening workout can triple or quadruple your cortisol for hours.
Which would make it hard to sleep, obviously.
Well, some people can still fall asleep. But that huge mistimed spike suppresses the cortisol awakening response for the next day.
So you wake up sluggish, tired, reaching for caffeine.
And your whole rhythm gets shifted. You're constantly playing catch-up.
Okay, so if the morning is about this aggressive activation, then the night have to be about reversing that process.
Yeah.
Burnout, then, sounds like it's just wrongly timed cortisol.
That is exactly what it is. You see two main patterns: the person who's exhausted all morning, chugging caffeine, and then is totally wired but tired at night.
I think we all know that feeling.
And then there's the other type where cortisol is just chronically high all day, a square wave. In both cases, the healthy morning spike and the critical evening drop are just gone.
So if the morning is bright light and movement, the evening is the total opposite. We have to actively kill the lights.
Actively, you need to get down to 1 to 3 lux. We're talking candlelight, basically. It has to be truly dark. And a fascinating study showed people sleeping in a room with just 100 lux, which is still very dim.
Okay.
They woke up with abnormally high morning glucose levels.
Wait, how does dim light while you're sleeping raise your blood sugar?
Because cortisol's job is to mobilize glucose, and that light, even hitting your closed eyelids, is enough of a stimulus to slightly activate that system.
Wow. So it's not just about sleep quality, it's messing with your metabolic health too.
Your body's pumping out energy when it should be in deep rest and repair mode.
So no lights, halt caffeine about 8 hours before bed, limit water, use slow breathing, right?
Right.
Long exhales to manually bring cortisol down.
Yes, but there's another critical piece, especially for that wired but tired feeling. People on very low-carb diets often report this.
Why is that?
Well, if your circulating glucose is always low, your baseline cortisol has to be higher. The body needs to be vigilant, ready to pull energy from stored sources at any moment.
So the key to calming the system, to suppressing that cortisol, is actually
Starchy carbohydrates.
comfort food.
It is. A modest amount of rice, oatmeal, even some pasta. In your last meal, a couple of hours before bed, it actively suppresses cortisol. Because if energy is readily available, the body doesn't need to mount a stress response to go find it.
That's the biochemistry of comfort food. That's incredible.
It's a direct signal of safety and abundance to your nervous system.
Okay, last piece for the night. The raising mind. You've dimmed the lights, you've eaten your carbs, but you're still lying there planning tomorrow.
The neurological issue there is often proprioception. You can't shut down the awareness of your body's position in space.
Your brain can't let go.
Right, so we need to hack it. We use the vestibular system.
How do you do that?
It's simple. You close your eyes and you slowly move them side to side. Then in circles, clockwise and counterclockwise. Then you try to look down toward the bridge of your nose and hold it with an exhale.
And what is that doing neurologically?
It engages the cerebellum and the vestibular system in a way that momentarily overloads it. It forces your brain to forget about your body's position, which is a key step to actually falling asleep.
So we've finally gotten into that deep, low cortisol state.
Mm-hmm.
But what's actually happening in the brain during that deep sleep? It's not just rest, it's an active cleaning process.
It is. For years, we thought the brain didn't have a lymphatic system, but that was completely wrong. We now know about the lymphatic system.
The brain's washing machine.
A perfect analogy. During deep sleep, these specialized cells called astrocytes physically push brain tissue away from the blood vessels.
They're literally opening up channels.
They're opening up drainage ditches, exactly. And once those spaces are widened, cerebral spinal fluid, CSF, washes through like a torrent. It clears out all the metabolic waste that built up during the day. Ammonia, CO2, protein fragments.
All the junk from a day of thinking.
All of it. And here's another paradox. In your body, movement helps drain the lymphatic system.
But for the brain.
It's the opposite. It's inactivity. The immobilization that happens during deep sleep is what drives lymphatic clearance. The washing machine cycle can only run when you're completely still.
Can we optimize this process?
The research suggests simple things help. Sleeping on your side, left or right, seems fine. With your head slightly tilted or elevated appears to be the best position for flow.
And if you don't get this clearance, that's brain fog, right?
That's classic brain fog. It's the feeling of that metabolic waste sticking around, and you can literally see it.
What do you mean?
The puffiness and bags under your eyes, that's often just lymph accumulation because the retina shares the exact same clearance system as the brain. So deep sleep is kind of the best cosmetic you can have.
Okay, so the system is clean. Let's talk about using it. How does thinking actually work?
At a basic level, a thought starts with a seed element, a noun, an idea, and the brain immediately begins layering on sensory memories, past experiences. Thinking is fundamentally the abstract layering of senses.
What does that mean for focus then, in our world?
It means your ability to focus is directly limited by the number of sensory inputs your brain is processing. And the catastrophe of the modern world is that screens bring an infinite number of sensory experiences into a tiny, restricted area.
We're just flooding the system.
Constantly. We're making deep focus almost impossible. The solution, then, is to do what we did with cortisol. You have to aggressively clear the slate.
Create a sensory vacuum.
Yes. You have to implement intentional, boring breaks, moments of silence, of sensory removal, before and during hard cognitive work. Starve the brain of input so it can build a deep trench of focus.
And once you're in that trench, how do you make the information stick? It's not just rereading, we know that.
No. Neuroplasticity needs alertness, and it needs sleep later. But the biggest lever for what you could call anti-forgetting is self-testing. Reflection.
So learning is repeated recall.
It's repeated recall, not repeated exposure. Quizzing yourself on material reinforces that memory network exponentially more than just highlighting it again.
All of this spiking cortisol, clearing input, it all requires so much control. Which brings us to this fascinating paradox of breaking bad habits.
Bad habits are usually deep, fast, hypothalamic impulses. The automatic reach for the phone, the snack.
And breaking them requires this intense top-down control from the prefrontal cortex, the no, don't do that part of the brain, which is exhausting.
It's incredibly metabolically expensive, but the sources point to this amazing neurological insight. This incredibly difficult act of self-restriction becomes dramatically easier when the burden of that top-down control is, well, when it's relinquished.
Relinquished to what?
To an external construct, like the notion of a higher power, which is, central to 12-step programs.
So you're saying it's neurologically more efficient to offload that responsibility?
It seems to be. It suggests the human brain actually evolved to make self-restriction easier when the ultimate source of the no is shifted off the prefrontal cortex. It's a remarkable finding about how we create structures for self-improvement.
So to bring this all together, optimizing your performance really isn't about some magic pill. It's about mastering the timing and context of cortisol, light, and sensory input. You're just tuning a clock.
A 24-hour clock. And the takeaways are so actionable. First, embrace that morning stress. Get bright light and hydrate in the first 90 minutes. Start your rhythm strong.
Second, use those starchy comfort food carbs in your last meal to actively suppress your evening cortisol. That translates directly into deeper, more restorative sleep.
And third, to get that deep focus, you have to do the opposite of what feels normal. Aggressively minimize sensory input. Take boring breaks. You need a clean slate to do sophisticated work.
We talked about the glymphatic system, this incredible recent discovery of how the brain repurposes sleep for cleaning.
Yeah.
And if you connect that idea of repurposing what's already there to the bigger picture.
It's a powerful idea.
I mean, think about David Fajgenbaum's Every Cure project. It's having huge success curing diseases by repurposing generic, existing drugs that were designed for something else entirely.
It really suggests that maybe the solutions to some of our biggest problems are already right in front of us. They're just miscategorized, or maybe we're just overlooking them.